up, guys? Another podcast is here with myself, Rafael, and then Jackson, and here in Gracie Jiu Jitsu, West Houston, where we believe that Jiu Jitsu should be fun, safe, and taught in a structured way. So welcome, guys. So we're gonna do the breakdown of UFC 279. As well, Jackson is gonna either continue on with the story that he was telling before or new stories. He has too many stories. And then after, we're gonna have two questions from our student that he sent like a whole list, so we're breaking it down a little bit, so we're gonna continue on in his questions. Awesome. So 279.
Yeah. So the fight between Nate Diaz and Tony Ferguson.
And
what's happened there is the struggle. You know, like Tony Ferguson didn't know what to do anymore. He was exhausted, and the word exhausted really fits on everything what you do in jiu-jitsu, right? So they're scramble here and boom, 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 punch each other, and then Tony Ferguson, out of desperation, went to the legs. And when you are tired and exhausted, and you decide to go to the legs to take down, is in order to find a safe place to rest and just chill for a little bit. When he come, the neck was right open, and then he jumped here for a guillotine. And then Nate just sitting guard, and he placed the foot right on the hip. And I thought that was really cool how he put the foot on the hip here, and he clamped on the back. Now with that foot on the hip, he used like to push the body out, and then from here, get the guillotine working there, and come back here. So pretty much like that foot on the hip was pushing the body that way while the guillotine was holding the head. And this is like one of the best setup. What Rafael want to do here, they want to jump over to defend the guillotine. Okay, but that's the reason why I have this leg on the top, to avoid their defense and don't let them any window of opportunity here to escape. And it's just like a very basic move from Gracie combatives, you know, the guillotine attack, and usually happen when the bad guy's tired, exhausted, they don't find the way to fight anymore, and they want to take you to the ground, controlling the legs, exposing the neck. Combatives, we also teach how to defend the guillotine standing and do a transition to the ground exactly towards that side that Rafael escaped, you know? So it's so cool, like how a high profile fight of professional athletes ends with a basic combatives technique, you know? Crazy, so combatives is the way, man. And then the other fight was Hamzat and...
Before we move on, you noticed that Nate Diaz, you told me that Nate Diaz stood up in base after he choked him out.
Yeah, that was so cool. Another combatives, like basic technique. He was here, boom, submit, and then from here, guess what? Jiu-jitsu way, stand up in base all the way. Even that he was so excited probably to stand up and celebrate, you know, the base was unconsciously there, that he just stood up. When I saw the base, for me, it was like as good as the submission, because I know a lot of people that they've been training jiu-jitsu for a long time and they don't stand up in base correctly, you know, and that's such a fundamental of jiu-jitsu. Yeah, and we really push everybody to do here in classes.
Yeah, and then for the stand-up in base, if you guys don't know, we teach it because we want to be able to stand up in a stable way. Because the majority of the times, it's going to be either this one that you go forward, like head first, or you turn your back and then literally stand up in base, but you're turning away from the person. When somebody is aggressive towards you, you want to be able to stand up stable and balanced, but at the same time, you don't want to put your eyes away to a different focus. You want to focus on them, so you stand up in a way that you're safe and as well ready.
Opponent.
So he has already that.
And then the second fight was Hamzat and Holland. Out of scramble, same thing. You know, they got in a scramble on the ground, and then Holland was right here on the bottom, you know, probably trying to come from the bottom of the fight there, and Hamzat just start to apply the Darce choke. That's the hand going under the arm here, across the neck, and pop out here. And then he control here, and that took like maybe a minute and a half to get the right setup, but he never let Holland move out of here. So what he did, he gave priority for the control first. He was not here and got super excited and tried to close all the way and let Holland escape. He stayed here, and Holland was going everywhere and controlling. The more they move, the more he would adjust until he got the full adjustment here, and then with the hip on the arm, he got the submission there. And that's one of the most common, it's very common, people that have like long arms, you know, like Hamzat have like long arms and so easy to reach across, coming from the bottom across the neck and then you lock with the hands, and eventually you go. Henry liked to lock on the forearm, but I think he did lock all the way up here. Yeah, but Henry have a good explanation why you should lock low here on the forearm. And I remember I attended a seminar that he really break down how the Darce choke works best. And it's just so cool, you know, to see like jiu-jitsu after so many years still prevail in a professional fight. You know, the two main events of the UFC 279 was two submissions that you learn here in combatives and master cycle classes. And what's the word on that? It's like jiu-jitsu gonna be always the thing. I don't think like there is anything that came and put jiu-jitsu as a second option, right? Yeah. After 35 years that we exposed jiu-jitsu to the world by presenting jiu-jitsu on the UFC 1, people have mastered it for 35 years, but still the basic application of jiu-jitsu can be the end of any fight. And it was so good, you know, to see all that, all those two submissions, and the standing up in base, Nate Diaz. Ah, man, I love you now for that. You know, that was so good that you really embraced jiu-jitsu in the most like fundamental way ever, you know, and that was so good.
Yeah, no, the for you to be or for you to want to be a MMA fighter, if you don't have jiu-jitsu, then you're very limited, right? And you can see that many guys that come in from kickboxing background, they go ahead and immediately learn wrestling and jiu-jitsu both together to be able to avoid to go to the ground and to be able to avoid to getting submitted. So it's amazing to see those two things and going at it. And these two guys, Nate Diaz and Tony, both knew very well wrestling and jiu-jitsu. And one guy got tired, almost like jiu-jitsu.
And it's funny like how these two submissions, the guillotine and the Darce choke, they belong to the same family, right? Because they connect with each other.
Both, right?
So look, the guillotine is here, you know, and sometimes when I'm going in, Rafael jumps over me to defend. Look, the connection, boom. And I can go and do a transition to the Darce choke. So they're like same family, happening two different fights, but they're the same family. Let's reverse. You go back, look at the guillotine, come back again, boom, guillotine choke. If I'm going for it and they are defending by jumping to the other side, look, I just make a transition with the hand, and then we lock, and we have the other submission here. So Darce choke and guillotine, same family, different fights, you know, putting jiu-jitsu on the highlight again. Oh my God, it's so good. I'm so happy that I'm a specialist in jiu-jitsu and I can see that happen, you know, watching the UFC. When I see a submission like that, I say, yeah, that's the way.
Yeah, no, it's super cool, man. So guys, we're going to continue on to the story. This card was pretty interesting because they changed the fights at the last minute. It was very entertaining. I just watched these last two, man. It was very nice.
And make sure that you stand up in base all the time.
Very important. So let us know like what you thought about the fights. If you have fun, if you actually watch them, and let us know your opinion there. So now let's go to the story time. Awesome, guys. So let's go for the story time here. So go ahead, bro.
So this week I'd like to share. You know, we had a visitor that came to Houston, and I know this guy for many years. His name is Richard Avila. He was my partner when I started training jiu-jitsu a long time ago. And when I started jiu-jitsu, he was already a blue belt, and he was always one of the best competitors that I ever had the opportunity to be around. You know, everybody knew him in Brazil. For many years, he pretty much like controlled the lightweight division in most of the tournaments. And still until today, you know, 25 years have passed. He have a very successful gym in Brazil. That's the gym that I train when I go to Brazil. And he have promoted nearly 50 black belts in this facility. He have 7 affiliations around the city where I came from, Brazil. And then he came to Houston because he's coaching one of his students that's gonna fight the ADCC this weekend in Las Vegas. And I had the opportunity to be around him here in Houston, and I brought him to the gym. We did the events. Training with him is just amazing. You know, he still have full control over me like he always did. And I always learn a lot from this guy. You know, not just he's a great friend, but he always had so many stories. You know, this guy was like a natural born fighter. He was really good in jiu-jitsu. But when he was young, 20 years ago, he used to use jiu-jitsu to control other people. Anywhere he goes, he would like to showed that he was good at jiu-jitsu. So I remember like many stories of people that bumps on him, people that start fights with him. That's what he always said. So one day he arrives at the gym on Monday, and we are kind of waiting for him already. You know, I arrived there before, and the gossip around the gym is Richard is in the front page of the city newspaper. Okay, there is the city newspaper that comes like every Monday that talks about the weekend. And the front page of the newspaper was like, Richard from this jiu-jitsu school got in a fight in the nightclub. That was actually the nightclub that I used to work, so I knew about everything, but I didn't know that's gonna come out in the newspaper. And he got in a fight and he got arrested, and he ended up spend the night in jail. And then when he arrived on the gym on Monday, you know, my professor was just waiting for him, and he arrived and said like, hey man, you done, you don't train here anymore. You can go home and you're not part of our academy anymore because you are really damaging the image of our gym. You are in the front page of the newspaper, fighting the street like you always do, but this time is a little bit more aggravated because you really put our name out there. And that was like a big like argument. It was not like the way I'm telling you guys, it was a big argument, like pretty much like get out of here, never show up here anymore. And that was like lunchtime class. So the day runs like just normal. Everybody saw the newspaper in the morning. And then this other part that I'm gonna describe now, I was not there, but what Richard told me is like that same night, the teacher went to his house and ring the bell and say, Richard, come on, get in the car, I need to talk with you. And he like, man, you just kicked me out of the gym. You said that I'm not part of your team and I'm not supposed to train in your gym anymore. And the guy, oh, just shut up and come in the car, let's go. I want to talk to you. And then in the car ride, he tells Richard, hey, I want you to come back. I want you to come back to the gym. And Richard was confused, like, man, you kicked me out in the morning and now in the night you come to my house and you tell me that you want me to go back train at your gym again. Why? And then my professor said, well, because you be in the front page of the newspaper, we never had such an amount of new students coming to the gym. So a lot of people saw the newspaper, and through that, they got motivated to go like, oh my God, if you know jiu-jitsu, you can get in a fight, nothing happens, you're gonna win the fight. You know, he got arrested, but like this thing like really give you a lot of power. So a lot of new students show up in that day, and my teacher was super excited because it was like a kind of a free marketing for the whole city that, you know, we sell something that make you survive in a fight. And a lot of new students was showing up at the gym that day. And then the professor just like, okay, let's bring Richard back because he's doing free marketing for us. And that was so fun, you know, like I was the first time I see like somebody getting kicked out from the gym in the morning and get like re-signed in the night because the results of your fight in a bar just brought a lot of new clients for the gym. And of course, today these things doesn't happen anymore. But back ago, you know, 20 something years ago, that was the way to go, you know, that was the way to market jiu-jitsu was like, hey, I show you what I can do. You know, that's what Holland was doing with Hiro and Henner, bringing people to the garage and say like, hey, are you very good at fighting? And yeah, I am. I do 30 years of this martial art. Okay, go with my 15 years old here and let's see what it goes. And then Hiro and Henner was just controlling these giant like masters in many other martial arts and proving the point that jiu-jitsu was more efficient in like way ahead than any other martial art. And I totally forgot this story until Richard was here and we were like having lunch and he told me about that and it was so funny, you know. And there is many other stories of Richard. Tomorrow he's gonna be here at the gym again teaching the class with us, and then Friday he's leaving. But it was such a gift to have him around here, you know, a good friend, like 20 something years have passed. And when I saw him was just like 20 years ago, you know, like the same conversation, same vibe. We like just discussing a lot of things that happening. And he was really happy with the way we are teaching jiu-jitsu these days because of the structure that we have. You know, he never had the opportunity in Brazil to structure his gym the way that I did with mine, with Gracie University and all the curriculums and all the structure that we follow when he walked to the gym here, like, wow, I love what you guys doing here. You know, it's so much more friendly. And of course, there is none of your students going fight in a bar to prove anything, you know. And it was really nice for me, you know, because I have him as a jiu-jitsu mentor that will always teach me a lot of jiu-jitsu when I go to Brazil. It's like this daily seminars of information regards to jiu-jitsu, you know, and giving him back something, you know, I could add something to his profile, you know, to his portfolio of jiu-jitsu teacher, you know, but not with techniques of jiu-jitsu or beating him up or controlling him or anything like that. It's just the way that we run classes, you know. He was seeing the way that I'm teaching, following like a very the methodologies that we follow here, not just the way I teach, but the way that my instructors teach, that's just exactly the same way. He was overwhelmed and couldn't stop to ask me questions and compliment me because of the achievements that we did in the gym through the organized system that we have. So yeah, that was one of the richer stories.
Man, there's
you
many,
know,
bro.
there's so many. I shared some with you already, you know, and I'm excited to see him tomorrow again. He actually gonna sleep in my house tomorrow, so we're gonna have a long road. And actually tomorrow we're gonna meet with Romulo. That's also the guy who invited Richard to come back to the gym. That Richard have not seen him like for more than 10 years. We're all gonna meet tomorrow for dinner, and that's gonna be like a very special day that I'm gonna sit with these old friends of mine that we, for some reason, we disconnect in life, and now tomorrow we're gonna sit in the same table and talk life and jiu-jitsu again, you know, and the connections you make in jiu-jitsu, you know, you can even break them at some point, you know, but it just turns you in such a humble person that you're always willing to go back and forgive, you know. I think that's one of the strongest things you can have as a person, as an individual, is the ability to forgive. And I'm very proud of myself that I'm going after these people, you know, regardless of any politics that happened in the past. And I just want to forget the past and build a new future where we can train jiu-jitsu together and discuss business and, you know, and be open for to growth as a person, as a jiu-jitsu, as a business owner, you know. And took me a little while to crack the code and get them on board for us to forget the past and go ahead, but it's done, you know. And tomorrow is going to be the day that we're going to finally sit together, all of us. I've been with both of them already. I'm kind of the mediator right now, you know. I've been with both of them already, but tomorrow we're joining forces and we're going to discuss about everything. And I'm very proud of what I'm doing in order to reconnect relationships, you know. And the word that I can use is forgive. You know, you forgive. I felt healed yesterday when I went to meet Romulo after years, you know, and sit and talk with him and discussing things. I felt very healed myself. You know, I remember I left the gym, I was just like, wow, this is so good. You know, jiu-jitsu gives you a lot of power in order to be able to forgive. And yeah, here we are.
Awesome. Perfect, bro. So just continue on to the Q&A, because if not, we're gonna continue on with the stories, man.
Q&A, love Q&A.
And that story probably for the lunch that they're gonna have is gonna stay private, so it's not gonna be shared here. Awesome, guys. Let's go to the Q&A.
Q&A, bring it on. What do we have for today?
So with the questions here, and this is something that we continue on with the list that Pierre was mentioning here to us, and this is the last two. So what is the proper rolling etiquette? And he says some examples like, hey, digging the elbows into the thighs, it will be a bad example, pulling your fingers to break the grips, like all the dirty fighting techniques, to put in that way, air quotes here, so spazzing out for submission. So what is our recommendation for proper rolling etiquette? As an examples that are bad, like he can maybe hurt the person or maybe instigate the situation even more. So what do we recommend for that? What do you recommend for the experience that you have?
Well, like let's talk about like lower belts, like beginner level, you know. That's what's the danger of getting injured is more like visible, you know, that you can see. Like usually the students, when they go to master cycle class, they start to spar, they don't know the sparring etiquette, like how to behave. They end up doing things that cause injuries, you know. So the thing is, like, if you think about one thing that you should focus on when you start to spar is defense, surviving in defense. And this is the biggest misconception you see in jiu-jitsu, you know, because people go to a master cycle class after the practice. What they wanna do? What they wanna go for? Attack, submission, the fun part. But they're not ready yet, you know. And then they are not practicing the defense, the survival, and they wanna go for attacks, and they're not gonna be able to do that because when you look at an armbar from the mount, it looks like, when you look at it, you know, like practicing and drilling it, it's one reality. But when there is somebody actually defending and they don't want you to do that, the chances for you to get a submission is like very, very slim. You know, so I really recommend all the students to focus on defending, okay? And especially like, you can always make any training challenging, okay? If I train with a white belt today, a combatants belt that just came to Master Cycle, I'm gonna make that changing challenge for me. Like I let them mount on me, I let them control me on the side, I let them control my back, get the hands inside the collar. I want to take advantage of that, you know? And people sometimes they don't do that. They just want to keep like beating up everybody, you know, like it's one goal, forward, 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 control and submit all the time, and they never put themselves in a defensive situation and give that person the fun of do that a little bit too. Even though I'm saying like the beginner should focus in defense and in surviving, but if you are more experienced and you have control over that student, you know, let them have the fun time. Let them have a little bit of that control and get you in an armbar, and then you can work on defending and escape. And if they get, it's just fine. You know that's you giving that to them and making that a fun experience for them.
Yeah.
You know,
like what would be an example if now the combatants belt goes here or the blue belt is listening to this. And those are bad examples that, and when I say bad example, it will be considered dirty fighting techniques on the raw. Will be good etiquettes when they're defending, for them to be able to build the defense in a slightly less violent way, to put it that way. So
yeah, this is very hard to control, right? Very hard. For example, I'm training to Rafael, and I see that Rafael applying a dirty kind of technique on me, like maybe he go with the elbow, try to do a cross leg here, like very like aggressive, you know, that there's two routes I can follow now. I can return that energy, and now I'm gonna go also hard on you because I feel like you wanna go 100%, I'm gonna go 100% on you. Okay, and that would cause like a out of control situation. Or when I feel the elbow, my thigh here, I can stop the training and say like, hey, can you please go a little slower? You know, that was kind of hard on my leg. You know, you can stop the training and say like, hey, let's train in a different way. You know, instead of you like give that energy back, what's really hard to control. I'm telling you, even myself, when I train with somebody and I feel like they want to hurt me to get something, oh, you just want to like, okay, let's go. You want to go? Let's go, you know, but I more and more, I have more control over it. And I say like, hey, maybe let me show you a better way to do that, you know, and I stop the train and I turn that in a lesson instead of in a out of control battle, you know. So it's hard to have this, but it's possible.
What about the opposite? Like you're the one doing those things, pulling the fingers, digging the elbows. What do you recommend for them to avoid or relearn those habits instead of doing those things? How can they?
Well, just don't do it. You know, like you can't break a grip. Okay, like you can't break a grip like pulling the finger to open a grip. You know, there is an etiquette to open the grip. You never grab over the fingers. You know, so you know it. These are things that maybe you don't know, but just think about it. Like how not cool is it to open a grip? Like Rafael have a grip here on my leg, and I come here and I open the grip like this. You know, it's just like, just doesn't make sense. You know, and sometimes people don't know. They are desperate. So if somebody do that on you, like, hey, stop, bro. When you grab it here, don't grab on the finger because I have no control of protecting my finger here. Grab the whole hand. You know, you make the training like, if it's a self-defense situation in the street, everything is a goal. But you know, the enemy is outside of the building. We don't do that inside the building here, training with our friends. You know, the beefy grip. You grip, and instead of you grip the material, you grip like the meat together, the skin, you know, and sometimes they have no control of that. So it's much more productive. You stop it and say, like, hey, bro, look, when you grip on me, you got the skin together. Next time, try to grab just the material. If you go a little slower, you're gonna be able to see that. You know, sometimes they're so like excited and in a rush to do something that they grab with the skin together. Now like, that's so hard.
Yeah.
I can bring that energy back now. Okay, you want to go this way? Let's go. What's not productive, it's not gonna help anybody.
It's not a win-win with your partner either, and then
so it's much rather you stop the training and say like, hey bro, look, the grip here hurts me a little bit. Let your partner know what they are doing that's out of the etiquette requirements. And then you learning how to be more patient with that, and your partner gonna learn something that's new for them.
Yeah. So it will be two things that I got from this is if you're the person that is doing those things, those type of etiquettes, it's thinking about how can I get out from here in a leverage and technical way.
Mm-hmm.
How can I break this grip in a leverage and technical way? Like those questions are gonna help you to avoid grabbing the finger, avoid grabbing the skin here and gripping, avoiding those digging the elbows a little bit. So it's more about technically. When you say technically already, in my mind, it shows up, okay, how can I do this in a way that is just not hurting my partner, but it's actually effective on it, right? And with leverage, of course, it's going to be something effective. And then the other one, you being on the other side of receiving those things, giving that feedback and communicating to your partner. Excuse me, like when you grab me here, you grab my skin too.
Yeah.
So make sure here, so that communication between both of you is going to help each other out. Possible. So now the last one here that, and I like this one very much, it helped me out a lot, is what are the expectations for a student for each belt level? So for example, if the person is in the blue belt, what is the expectation?
Yeah, what's the goal? What's the route?
To simplify the question, to put it very simply, let's put a word for each belt to focus on. So what does she focus on the blue, on the purple, on the brown, and on the black? What do you think?
So I think like white belts, of course, is the foundation. Everything comes. We have the perfect program for the white belts to learn the 36 self-defense techniques, and there is no sparring, so you don't have to worry. Your focus is to break down those 36 techniques.
So it will be like self-defense. It will be the white
self-defense. And then as a blue belt, survive. You want to survive. You just want to roll and survive. Don't get injured. Don't go crazy. And then purple belt, defend. Is that how you follow?
Which one? Like as a
purple belt?
Like the way that I focus, for example, it will be like a blue belt, defend and surviving.
Defend and survive together. It's pretty much they go together on the blue belt.
Then the thing that, like for example, the way that I'm focusing on is this thing that Henry Hedon shared like years ago, and then after it will be the escape. So perfecting my escapes. So
as a purple belt.
Yeah. So defending.
That's it.
Yeah.
Purple belt, perfecting the escapes after you learn how to survive. And defend, you want to learn how to escape from threats in jiu-jitsu, like how to escape a side mount, how to escape a mount, how to do that in the right time, knowing the timing to do those techniques. It's way more important than the technique itself. And I think on the purple belt, you're going to get into that more. And then brown belt. Controls, control, because you can't get any submission without having a good understanding of the control. And then brown belt controlling, like have a good control, and then black belt is everything together plus the submissions. The submissions come like way more clear. I remember like the most basic technique, like the collar choke, right? Like simple. You learn that as a white belt, but it never works. It never works because you don't have the control, you don't have the understanding, you don't have the leverage, you don't know how to put the hands correctly. I started to get like collar chokes when I was like brown belt, black belt. So it's if you put things in this kind of visualization of progress, and goals, and you really can follow them, and you have like a long-term jiu-jitsu goal, like, man, I really want to do this for my whole life, and you put this in perspective, like one thing by the time, man, when you get like to a black belt, you're going to be a solid black belt that really have everything in place, and you're going to be definitely the best training partner to train with, you know?
And by the way, these things, like, of course, is the overall, you can say the macro expectation, the macro goal of each belt, right? Like, it's not saying that we don't see any submissions, we don't see any escape, we don't see any controls, meanwhile, with those belts. But the main thing that we focus on are those things.
Yeah.
And I did this part, and man, it helped me a lot. On the blue belt, that is I had a conversation with the students on Monday about exactly this. The majority are blue belts at this moment. Right now, that as a certified training center, for the first 2 years is gonna be a lot of blue belts in the master cycle, and then 3, 4, 5th year is gonna be purple belts now and everything. So right now he's proving of the concept of growing them and keeping them on the mat. So I was telling them, listen, right now you all almost in the same level, meaning that you're all similar belts, but you're all different sizes. And sometimes you're gonna have somebody that's the same exact experience and level, just like you, but the size will matter. And then when you get caught, meaning be on the bottom of the mount, be on the bottom of the guard, be in the bottom of the half, whatever position you are in the bottom of the fight, and you stay stuck for 5 minutes there defending, and you get frustrated, it's gonna happen sometimes. But instead of being frustrated there, you will be more like, okay, I was in that position, I got trapped there for the whole 5 minutes. What positive thing happened in that moment? I didn't get tapped. I didn't get no submission. I didn't get tired. So start to thinking about those expectations of, okay, I'm defending here. I don't have to escape out yet. So if I stay for 5 minutes with someone bigger than me, on top of me, and I didn't get as tired as them, and I didn't get tapped, that's an amazing role right there. Yeah. So it's something that I reminded them again of, like, guys, be there, doesn't matter, you got stuck, no problem. You couldn't escape. It's 5 minute roll. You're not that tired and you didn't get tapped. That's amazing. And if the other person is more tired than you and you're in the bottom of the fight, that's even plus.
Yes. Yeah. And we should send those that series of defense capes, submit and control,
amazing
to
question.
Every master cycle student. You know, everybody like should watch these 4 videos.
Oh, I can do that. Yeah.
You know, to have this kind of concept. You know, like what you do when you go to a new environment now that there's sparring, there's gloves on. There is like more intensity in the training, you know. I think those videos are incredible, and I watch them myself sometimes just to refresh, you know, and like go back to the basics. And let's do that. Let's make sure that we send those videos to everybody so you guys have a little bit of data to study.
Yeah, and if you guys want to watch in there, if you guys want to look after you watch this video, it's gonna be the defense, escape, control, and submit hit on Gracie video that he put like years ago. And before like he put that, I was found like an article that put like a word, like a keyword for every single belt, and it was very similar to that, very similar. I think there's one word that changed, but it was very similar. When I saw he did that, then I changed it to the way that he did it, and it really truly helps out. And as a purpose right now, like being on the bottom of the fight, reminded me again, okay, defend here, and they just focus on what opportunities of escapes do I have in this moment, and because of my defense for many years in the blue belt, I can see the escapes, and sometimes I cannot escape, and that's fine. But that's gonna refine my sense and my sensibility of, oh, this is the door right here. Oh, maybe I was too late. So my timing is getting better as the purple, you know. Yeah. So when you get out, then as a brown belt, then you focus on your control to get tired, to exhaust it more after you get out, you know. So it's a nice way to organize your thoughts and your goals in jiu-jitsu. And this helped me a lot in supporting me a lot.
Just remember one thing: the right move in the wrong time is the wrong move. So everything gonna settle with practice.
Beautiful. So listen, we're almost done with the video now, and this is something that maybe you watch the UFC a lot and you're sitting there watching jiu-jitsu like happen this weekend, and you feel that maybe jiu-jitsu is not for you. Maybe you're a little bit intimidated by that whole chaotic thing that happened, punches, and then the guy went and scrambled, all that stuff. Maybe it's a bit intimidating, and it's true, it can be. But like Jackson was mentioning, having the structure that we have and believing that it should be safe and it should be fun, this is the environment for you to try at least the first time. So we have 10-day trials for you to try. There's a link a little bit below on the description. So click it there, reserve a spot there. If you're in the West Houston area, you can come into the gym and then try it out for 10 days and feel it for yourself, experience it. If you don't, Jackson has shared GracieUniversity.com for you to check the videos online, do the lessons online with a friend or with their partner or anybody, a family member, and then practice and experience jiu-jitsu slowly, you know, online there by yourself and with someone that you trust. And then if you find a gym that has this curriculum here, great. If not, just make sure that you check that it has this type of orders, like self-defense first, and then slowly get into the advanced curriculum and everything. I highly recommend it.
And if you tried jiu-jitsu before and that didn't go well for you, make sure you give yourself one more chance and come check us out, because you're going to be surprised how friendly jiu-jitsu can be. You know, and I know that many people tried jiu-jitsu and they got discouraged because of the intensity of the training. And we are kind of rescuing these people at our facility here and get them back with a much more organized structure. They just get overwhelmed, like, wow, why did I have that bad experience? if this exists, you know. So don't give up. You know, if you had a bad experience, or maybe you heard somebody say, "Oh, I went to jiu-jitsu, but it was too hard," you're gonna be surprised trying one of our classes. That's why we offer 10-day free. We give the uniform because we are 100% sure that our system is the most friendly and organized system out there.
Yeah. Perfect, guys. See you in the mats. See you next time.